The fourth session, titled Working with SDGs, an Evolutionary Approach, with the speaker Stephen Haggerett, the founder of Australis, about the main factor in activating the SDGs. How is this approach, which is based on values, and its influence in improving sustainability in communities?
Good afternoon. We just made it to 12 o'clock. Good afternoon, and thank you to the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Knowledge Foundation for hosting this important event and inviting me to speak. It's said that new ideas are generated by innovators, established in the world by pathfinders, and ultimately adopted by followers. It's always been my passion to explore new ideas, and I've been very privileged to collaborate with many extraordinary people over the years. We've evolved a portfolio of physical, digital, and technological platforms that are now emerging with a common intention of stewarding humanity's shift into a new paradigm. As such, I represent a rare community of innovators, often known as eccentrics, and trust that there may be some pathfinders in the audience who are inspired enough to come and engage in this most interesting of stories. The core topic of this presentation explores mindset and how it influences our outcomes. Then goes on to explore how the current evolution towards holistic systems in the world, what's involved in making that shift. We're going to take a quick look at the ecosystem of common good initiatives that are currently emerging and explore just one example of those initiatives. So, mindset. Oh, sorry. Some would say that all problems can be solved with enough money and knowledge. I'd suggest that knowledge and money are both neutral and abundant, and that it's actually the mindset from which they are applied that determines the outcome. For example, the SDGs were adopted in 2015, but defining those goals has been an ongoing process for almost 50 years, during which time a huge amount of knowledge and money has been engaged in addressing those initiatives from one form or another. Yet the systemic issues they seek to address seem to be escalating rather than resolving. So what's not working? We've inherited a world where the primary criteria for measuring value is a financial return on investment. The profit-driven model has served us well in the past, driving the development of new systems and technologies. However, I believe that it's now become the limiting factor in resolving these broader problems that SDGs seek to address. In other words, no amount of money or knowledge will create meaningful change if the values by which they are deployed doesn't meaningfully change first. So we have a conundrum. On the one hand, we have nation states which emerged to protect and serve the interests of a specific group of people, i.e. the self-interest of a nation. On the other hand, we have the SDGs that have clearly identified that the challenges we face span every facet of our society and the ecosystem we share, and are unilateral by nature and beyond any particular border, government, culture, or belief. So there's a misalignment between the common good approach required to address global challenges and the self-interest mindset that we currently are operating from. As Einstein said, we can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So whether we effectively resolve the SDGs, or indeed survive as a race for that matter, I believe is not so much a lack of resources, but rather the mindset that we come from in distributing them. This isn't a new concept, but the new knowledge, I feel, comes from the understanding the shift we need to make and how to allow for a different outcome. observing natural systems is a good place to start. Nature has evolved as a holistic system from the beginning of time. It's self-organizing, it's decentralized and adaptable. Conversely, self-interest mindset divides and separates individuals from each other, humanity from nature. It propagates structures where control and influence are centralized and where systems and procedures often stifle our ability to act. So, is it possible to simply expand our criteria by which we measure value to create a more holistic, aligned, common good model? One that includes money, but also knowledge, technology, and the environment, and also values our culture, experience, health, and well-being. And how might our mindset shift if we adopted this broader criteria? We might move from being driven by personal ambition to being driven by human connections, from finding the best options for ourselves to finding balance in each situation, from competing to win to collaborating, from building allies to building communities. The list goes on. So how can we make this shift? Values are at the core of every human decision-making process. They make up our beliefs, our behaviors, our language, and our attitudes. And how might a values-driven organization be described? It could be summarized as a team of individuals that operate autonomously and work collaboratively to benefit humanity and restore balance to our systems. An organization united around a shared vision, mission, and set of core values. It would ideally embrace and nurture 7 core elements that would allow the organization to thrive, promoting the longevity, the sustainability, and impact of the business over time. Many of you might be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the pinnacle of which represents personal fulfillment. However, I think our new understanding is that this is really the point of transformation, the springboard from which to expand and embrace a broader set of values needed to resolve the SDGs, moving from more contractive self-interest models to more expansive common good practices. So the goal is to develop a full spectrum approach without lack or excess in the lower levels to ultimately align self-interest with common good. In so doing, we redefine the concept of ROI from a return on investment to a return on impact, where value is determined by the outcomes, not the financial return only. This might seem out of reach for some, but let me show you some of what's emerging. I mentioned my passion for exploring and supporting new ideas at the start of this presentation, and here's a quick look at various initiatives that share a common intention of creating a values-based, holistic ecosystem able to support humanity evolve into this new paradigm. We've clustered them into 3 main categories: digital platforms with speed, agility, and reach; physical platforms that anchor digital initiatives in the world; and technologies that will further support humanity make this shift. There are many initiatives in each category which build into what we're referring to as the Global Visionary Network. I'm not going to go through them all now, but just to illustrate that there are a lot of highly resonant, interrelated activities going on in this space. Clearly too many to reference here, so I'll just briefly touch on one. The CoCreative Hub network. for which the vision is to establish a global network of facilities where leaders in all areas of human activity can come together to explore and co-create humanity's positive future. In other words, places supporting people to co-create responsibly for the mutual benefit of all. There are many layers to this initiative, so I'll just speak to 4 core precepts. Firstly, intention as the foundation. Form versus function in creating built environments has been widely debated over the years. And though the CoCreative Hub initiative is about establishing a global network of physical facilities in specific locations, it's the shared intention that defines them. It's about creating places that promote a way of being that honors both the individual, the group, and the ecosystem that we all share. It's about an approach to innovating in the broader context of life to develop whole systems approaches and solutions based on more universal measures of success. The form and function of each facility will uniquely reflect the time in history when they are created, the unique social and cultural origins of where they're based, and the unique environment they need to respond to, but it's the shared intention to focus on common good outcomes that unifies the network. Secondly, the focus on inspired innovation. From the moment we're born to the moment we die, we're learning and growing through trial and error every day. It's just the way that we evolve. However, more creative endeavors in the world seem to be directed at refining what is. After all, that's the safer bet, to just keep refining what you already have. The CoCreative Hub initiative, however, is strategically aligned with inspired innovation over creative repetition, because it would appear that iterating on the old isn't resolving the challenges that we face. As I said before with Einstein's comment, we can't solve the problem from the thinking that we've used to create it in the first place. Here we need to really foster the 1% of innovation that is aligned with the new, finding new ways, but with the common good as our defining and guiding principle. Thirdly, creating a broader context. By co-locating leaders in all areas of human activity, we place each in a broader context to the others. This recognizes the value of multiple inputs in providing the fertile ground for new, innovative solutions to emerge. It also fosters the idea that from broader inputs come more informed choices in delivering more responsible outcomes. Fourthly, connecting and grounding networks. Digital platforms can communicate with millions instantly, though information can often remain conceptual until a person has had a direct experience of it. As such, the CoCreative Hub network is intended to ground digital networks and ideas in experience and unify the SDG effort regionally and globally. It's like having an Apple campus for digital and physical initiatives, but instead of serving one company, they are intended to serve humanity as a whole through a full spectrum of innovation, solving multiple issues around the world simultaneously. So to summarize, as I mentioned at the beginning, I've made it my life's work to support initiatives that aspire to steward the transition from fractured, profit-driven systems to more holistic ecosystems able to balance the interests of all stakeholders. I showed you a number of initiatives on the screen earlier, and no doubt there are many more. So the task at hand, though, at the moment, is to bring them all together, to bring initiatives that reflect this common good approach with financial resources aligned with these inspired intentions. So we're building a global brains trust, the source of infinite possibilities, a number of which have already been well developed and are ready to be deployed. And hopefully there are some passionate pathfinders here at this conference who want to make a positive impact in the world. And if so, I'd love to meet. So please come and say hello. I just wanted to finish with a quote from Dr. Seuss's story, The Lorax. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to change. It's not. Which is a call to action for every one of us. Thank you, and if you'd like to have a chat, I'd love to meet you. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I have one question. In your opinion or experience dealing with companies who follow the profit-driven model,
Yep.
what would be, let's say, the 2 or 3 most best approaches for them to bring them abroad to become a common good approach?
Common good approach.
To turn them to that. Because if they are having the old mindset,
Sure, yeah.
what 2, 3 points that really works to turn them over?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, as I said, I think it's really shifting the mindset. The world as we know it over the last 300 years and the industrial revolution, the era that we live in now, holds money above all other criteria, and every other decision is made based on money. It's not that we can't have the self-interest of seeking wealth and prosperity, but I think where we need to move at this stage is into that broader idea of what value is. Because if it's only about money, then we destroy the environment, we destroy cultures, we destroy societies. We're not taking account of all the other facets that make up our existence. And until we actually broaden those measures by which we understand success to be, then nothing's going to change. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals cover pretty much every aspect of our society and the ecosystem and speak to all of the challenges that we face, and it's across the board. But if, again, money is the only measure of how we are successful with those, then gender equality and famine and everything else won't ever get solved. So just broadening the mindset to allow money to be in the mix, but other forms of value to be included is the first step. All right, well, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Stephen, for your talk.